I probably do not agree with the idea of boundaries because ultimately they are my PhD students are my colleagues. The only difference is that they pay me. Okay, and so I will never forget that that a lot of the work that they do enhances my own track record as well, and invariably will add to my case for promotion in the future. The social element is really important because the PhD process can be one that is extremely isolated. And it can be something that it can be very stressful. I have had PhD students who actually have had burnt out in the process. And in fact, one of them has recently taken an extended period of leave because of the burnout. And I think it's important that you still I do still ensure that I do send messages to say, how are you getting on? I haven't heard from you for a while. Is everything okay? I'm here to chat if you need me. Because I think that's really quite important that you show that you care for them in a genuine way. I think that's really important. I mean, at the end of the day, they will be producing a lot of work that you can then use as well to write up in publications. So it's a it's a very strange relationship because on the one hand it's quite transactional, but on the other hand you also have to make sure that you treat them like a human being, right? So I think going for a social is important. I think where I draw the boundary would be if they are over social. So sometimes I have been in research groups where there's a lot of socializing going on, but not a lot of working. So it's to make sure that during the formal meetings that it is very clear that we need to see how people have progressed. So what I tend to do is I tend to have individual meetings set up in 1 month and then group meetings in the following month, and we alternate. And the group meetings are really quite useful. So it still takes up the same amount of time for me because the group meetings can sometimes last an entire day from 9 to 6 p.m., probably with a break in between for lunch. But it's really intense discussion. I have 9 PhD students who do weird and wonderful stuff, which at first glance might not be coherent, but actually the main coherent point is my input, which is my theoretical inclination. And so that binds the 9 different projects together. And so it is quite useful in group meetings for them to explore synergies between each other's projects. But also, it's useful to kind of tally up performance. So I normally tend to start the meeting by saying, so how many journal articles and how many studies have you reviewed to date? And that usually gives them the anxiety because they kind of competing with one another to kind of say, I've done so many and you've done so many. So that's one way in which I start to kind of draw boundaries. Now that I've got students who are much more advanced in the PhD process, I tend to use the group meetings for mock Fiverr sessions. And this is really quite useful because my students are now able to become critical friends, right? And they are also able to see which students are performing much better than others just by the way they respond to questions. And so I think this is quite useful in terms of using group meetings to kind of set certain boundaries. But I still believe that we need to maintain that social aspect and to also make them aware that you are there if they need you.